There's a truth that spans millennia, whispered in ancient temples, encoded in sacred texts, practiced by humanity's greatest masters, and systematically hidden from modern consciousness. You possess an inner power so potent it can literally rewrite your reality, transform your mind, magnetize your presence, and catapult you to levels of success that seem impossible today. This power isn't in any pid, it doesn't reside in any guru, it doesn't come from any external technique. It pulses in every cell of your body, concentrated in the purest essence of your masculine vitality. And perhaps the most uncomfortable question you can ask yourself right now is, why did no one ever teach you the true power of your sexual energy? Modern society has built an invisible prison around your sexuality, conditioning you to believe that sexual pleasure is merely an escape valve, a momentary relief, a biological need to be satiated whenever it arises. They've sold you the idea that masturbation is healthy, natural, even necessary for your psychological well-being. They've convinced you that repressing your impulses is neurotic, that sexual liberation is synonymous with freedom, that immediate gratification is an unquestionable right. But what if I told you that this narrative is nothing more than a carefully orchestrated lay designed to keep you small, weak, and dependent? Napoleon Hill, in his studies of history's most successful men, discovered something that conventional psychology prefers to ignore. All of humanity's great achievers shared one characteristic: they had learned to master and transmute their sexual energy. Not repress, not deny, but transmute. There's a world of difference between these concepts, and it's in that difference that lies the secret that can irreversibly transform your life. Sexual energy is the most primitive and powerful force in the universe. It's what moves the stars, makes plants sprout from the earth, and awakens creation in all its forms. In men, this energy isn't just a reproductive drive, it's the very essence of your life force, the fuel of your creativity, the core of your personal magnetism. When Napoleon Hill spoke of sexual transmutation, it wasn't referring to some abstract esoteric philosophy, but to a practical technology of personal transformation that can be mastered by any man willing to face the truth about himself. Imagine for a moment that your sexual energy is like a powerful river flowing through the landscape of your life. Most men treat this river as a problem to be solved. They build dams to contain it or open floodgates to let it flow aimlessly. But the man who understands the principles of sexual transmutation does something completely different. He channels this river, directs its force, uses its power to generate energy, irrigate his dreams, and drive the turbines of his personal achievement. Semen retention isn't a moralistic or religious practice. It's an energetic science. Every time you ejaculate, you're not just releasing bodily fluids, you're wasting an extraordinary concentration of life force, creativity, and personal magnetism. Semen contains not only genetic material, but also an energy density that took your body weeks to produce. When you retain this essence, something extraordinary happens. Your energy begins to circulate upwards, nourishing your brain, sharpening your mental clarity, boosting your confidence, and creating a magnetic field around you that people instinctively feel. Ancient Taoists called this cultivating yin energy, the vital essence that when preserved transforms into Shen, elevated spiritual consciousness. Hindu yogis developed an entire system of practices based on the conservation and sublimation of sexual energy, knowing that it's the fuel of enlightenment. Medieval alchemists encoded this knowledge in complex symbolism, speaking of the transformation of lead into gold, a perfect metaphor for the transmutation of raw sexual energy into refined spiritual power. But you don't need to become a monk or a mystic to access this power. Napoleon Hill discovered that the most successful businessmen, the most brilliant inventors, the most charismatic leaders of his time practiced, consciously or unconsciously, some form of sexual transmutation. Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, all these giants of human achievement learned to channel their sexual energy into their projects and ambitions, instead of dissipating it in momentary pleasures. Modern science is beginning to validate what ancient sages always knew. Recent studies show that frequent ejaculation can lead to hormonal fluctuations that negatively affect levels of testosterone, dopamine, and other neurotransmitters essential for motivation, focus, and well-being. Post-orgasmic fatigue syndrome, recognized by contemporary medicine, demonstrates that there's a direct connection between sexual release and energy depletion that can last for days or even weeks. When you begin to practice conscious retention, you're not simply abstaining from an activity, you're literally reprogramming your neurochemistry. Your dopamine, instead of being wasted on empty rewards, becomes available to motivate you toward real goals. Your testosterone rises natural, increasing your assertiveness, confidence, and physical presence. Your mental energy intensifies, allowing you to maintain focus for much longer periods. Your personal magnetism amplifies, causing people to feel naturally drawn to your presence. But herein lies the trap that brings down most men. They approach retention as a battle against themselves, using sheer willpower to repress their impulses. This is like trying to stop a river by building a stone wall. Eventually, the accumulated pressure will break down all your defenses in an even more destructive way. True sexual transmutation doesn't happen through repression, but through conscious sublimation. The subtle revolution, transmuting sexual energy. The difference is subtle, yet revolutionary. When you repress your sexuality, you deny a fundamental part of yourself, creating psychological tension and eventual compulsive outbursts. When you transmute your sexual energy, you acknowledge its power and consciously redirect it into higher channels of expression. It's like the difference between damming a river, which might burst its banks at any moment, and building a sophisticated canal system that uses the water's force to generate clean, sustainable energy. The first step in this transmutation is developing a keen awareness of your energetic patterns. Most men live on sexual autopilot, reacting to impulses without questioning their origin or purpose. They feel sexual tension and automatically interpret it as a need that must be immediately satisfied. But what if that tension wasn't a problem to be solved, but an energy to be harnessed? What if sexual desire were a sign that you have vital force available to be invested in something great? When you learn to pause between impulse and action, you open a sacred space where transformation becomes possible. In that space, you can feel sexual energy not as a compulsion, but as a powerful vibration that can be channeled into any area of your life. You can literally feel this force being absorbed into your nervous system, fueling your creativity, intensifying your presence, boosting your ability to manifest your dreams into reality. The journey of sexual transmutation is also a journey of confronting your psychological shadow. Every man carries emotional wounds, traumas, unconscious patterns that manifest through his sexuality. Compulsive masturbation is rarely about genuine pleasure. More often, it's an escape mechanism, a way to numb anxiety, loneliness, inadequacy, fear, or anger. When you stop using sexuality as an escape All those repressed emotions come to the surface, demanding that you face them in a mature and conscious way. This confrontation with the shadow is simultaneously the most challenging and most transformative part of the journey. This is where many men give up, preferring to return to old patterns of immediate relief rather than facing the intensity of what arises when they stop running from themselves. But those who persist discover that on the other side of this psychological crossing lies a completely new version of who they are, more integrated, more powerful, more authentic. And here, at this crucial moment in your awakening journey, I want to make an invitation that can exponentially accelerate your transformation. If this message is resonating deeply within you, if you're feeling an unease, a calling to something greater, don't let this moment of clarity be lost in the hassle of everyday life. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell, not just to receive more content, but to make a public commitment to yourself that you are serious about your evolution. Every video is shared here is a tool specifically for men who refuse to accept mediocrity, who seek transformative truths, not just entertaining information. By subscribing, you're signaling to the universe that you're ready to receive even deeper knowledge, even more powerful practices, insights that can catapult your life to levels you never imagined possible. This isn't just a digital decision. It's a rite of passage into the brotherhood of men who have chosen to awaken. Transmuted sexual energy manifests in ways that may seem almost magical to those who don't understand the principles behind the process. Your ability to concentrate becomes laser-focused, allowing you to delve deeply into complex projects without distraction. Your physical presence intensifies. People start to notice something different about you, a magnetism they can't define, but that instinctively draws them in. Your creativity explodes in unexpected directions, generating ideas, solutions, and insights that seem to come from an inexhaustible source of inspiration. But perhaps the most profound transformation happens at the level of your relationship with personal power. Most men live in a state of energetic dependence. They rely on external approval, constant stimulation, validation from others to feel alive and valuable. When you learn to conserve and transmute your sexual energy, you develop an inner source of power that depends on nothing and no one. You become energetically self-sufficient, able to generate your own motivation, confidence, and sense of purpose. This energetic independence translates into every area of your life. In business, you develop a supernatural ability to persevere through obstacles that would knock down other men. Your frustration tolerance multiplies, your resilience strengthens, your long-term vision clarifies. You stop seeking immediate gratification and begin investing in lasting fulfillment. You stop trading the extraordinary for the convenient, the meaningful for the pleasurable. In relationships with women, the transformation is even more dramatic. When you no longer need them for sexual relief, when you no longer project your unresolved needs onto them, when you approach them from abundance instead of scarcity, your attractiveness multiplies exponentially. Women instinctively sense when a man is in a state of need versus when he is in a state of choice. The man who has mastered his sexual energy radiates a calm confidence, a magnetic presence that is irresistible, not because he tries to seduce, but because he has embodied a primal strength that awakens something deep within the feminine psyche. The journey of sexual transmutation is also a spiritual journey, even if you don't consider yourself a religious or esoteric person. When you learn to consciously move energy through your body, when you develop the ability to feel and direct subtle forces, when you experience expanded states of consciousness that arise naturally from energy conservation, you inevitably connect with deeper dimensions of existence. Mystics across traditions speak of Kundalini, the sacred fire sleeping at the base of the spine, which, when awakened, ascends through the chakras, producing enlightenment. But you don't need to believe in chakras or Kundalini to experience the phenomenon these concepts describe. When you conserve your sexual energy and learn to consciously move it through your body, you often experience sensations of heat, electricity, and expanded awareness that precisely match what ancient texts describe. This spiritual dimension of the practice isn't a side effect, but a natural and inevitable consequence. Sexual energy is the creative force of the universe in miniature. When you learn to consciously work with this force, you align yourself with the creative principles governing reality. You begin to manifest synchronicities, opportunities, connections that seem to emerge from nowhere, but are actually the result of your energetic alignment with higher frequencies of existence. The process of transmutation isn't linear or predictable. There will be days when you feel like a god, vibrating with superhuman strength and clarity. There will be other days when you face intense waves of energy that test your determination and discipline. There will be moments of temptation so powerful you'll question your sanity for choosing this path. And there will be breakthroughs so profound you'll wonder how you lived so long without accessing this power. This variability isn't a bug, it's a feature. Each wave of energy you learn to ride without drowning strengthens your ability to navigate ever greater intensities. Each temptation you consciously overcome without compulsive reaction develops your tolerance for creative tension. Each moment of doubt you sustain without giving up builds unshakable confidence in your capacity for transformation. Society hasn't prepared you for this journey because it profits from energetically depleted men dependent on external stimuli, addicted to instant gratification. Men who conserve and transmute their sexual energy are dangerous to any system that relies on compulsive consumers, unmotivated workers, passive citizens. A man who masters his life force cannot be manipulated by promises of pleasure, cannot be controlled by threats of pleasure, cannot be controlled by threats of deprivation, cannot be seduced by offers of ease. Therefore, the practice of sexual transmutation is also an act of rebellion. It's a declaration of independence from systems that want to keep you small. It's a refusal to accept that your most precious energy be wasted on empty pleasures while your deepest dreams remain unrealized. It's a decision to become the man you came here to be, not the man society programmed you to accept being. But perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of sexual transmutation is how it redefines your relationship with suffering. Most men use sexuality as an emotional analgesic, escaping pain, anxiety, existential emptiness through momentary pleasure. When you remove this escape valve, initially the discomfort intensifies, but gradually you develop an extraordinary capacity to be present with any experience, no matter how intense, without needing to flee from it. This ability to sustain intensity without collapsing is perhaps the most valuable skill a man can develop. It's what allows you to stay focused on long-term projects when initial motivation fades. It's what allows you to remain calm under pressure when others panic. It's what allows you to make decisions based on wisdom instead of impulse, to build instead of just consume, to lead instead of just follow. The journey of sexual transmutation also awakens a deep understanding of the nature of genuine happiness. Modern culture has sold you the idea that happiness is the absence of discomfort, the maximization of pleasure, the immediate satisfaction of desires. But when you learn to consciously work with your sexual energy, you discover there's a far deeper and more sustainable quality of well-being that emerges not from the satisfaction of desires, but from your ability to transform energy from one form to another. This happiness doesn't depend on external circumstances, doesn't fluctuate with your moods, cannot be taken from you by changes in your situation. It's a happiness that emerges from your connection to your own life force, from your ability to consciously create, from your skill in directing energy towards meaningful purposes. It's the happiness of the creator, not the consumer, of the protagonist, not the victim, of the man who consciously chooses, not the man who automatically reacts. And here we arrive at the climax of this revelation, the truth that can liberate you once and for all from the invisible prison in which your life has been unfolding. The man who masters his sexual energy is not the one who denies it, but the one who completely and consciously transforms it into fuel for his greatness. He doesn't flee from desire, he uses it as a portal to higher dimensions of experience. He doesn't fear his animal nature, he integrates it with his divine nature. He doesn't repress his primal force, he refines it into spiritual power. Semen walks the world with a presence that cannot be fake, manufactured, or imitated. He carries with him the dignity of someone who doesn't settle for lesser versions of himself. He possesses the confidence of someone who has discovered an inexhaustible source of energy within himself. He exudes the magnetism of someone who needs nothing from anyone, yet can offer everything to everyone. The truth no one told you is that you already possess all the power necessary to radically transform your life. This power isn't in secret techniques, enlightened gurus, or magic formulas.